Hello there, guys, and welcome back to my channel, to our live reaction and player ratings live stream after the potentially craziest game in Stamford Bridge history. Of course, there is the 4-4 against Ajax under Frank Lampard. I'm sure there's other games. There's that, what was it, second leg of the Champions League or second leg of the League Cup final back in the day against Liverpool. But this is up there. 4 games between, well, the best team in the world and us. 4-4. We hadn't scored against Man City since the Champions League final 2.5 years ago. And now we score 4. What a mental game. We're kind of getting robbed by Anthony Taylor again, but also we gift City everything, and then they gifted us back. What an insane, insane game. And honestly, right now, I cannot decide, am I fuming that we only got 1 point when we could have got 3? Am I happy that we got 1 point instead of none? What I can tell you is that I'm a lot happier than after that draw against Arsenal. Because, yes, it's another big team that we played against. Who we drew against? Arsenal, Liverpool, now Man City. Of course, Spurs. That's easy. Beat those. But my days, I don't even have words for this. This literally one of the most insane games I've ever watched. I've ever witnessed it. It was just truly, truly ridiculous. As you can see, I'm already joined by Jamie. Aaron should be joining us in just a minute's time. Jamie, I'll start with you. What a game of football. What a game of football. Where do you stand on all of this? Like, happy about the point? Happy about that we got it back after so many setbacks in the game? Is that the biggest standout for you? Or are you actually a bit annoyed that we didn't win when we really could have done?
Man, that was a crazy game. I don't think I can be disappointed with that, to be honest. Like, we did everything we could. Other than defending and being disappointed with like a lot of the defending situations we got into, I think there's only positives to take from it, to be honest.
Mate, I agree. That's exactly the thing. Because, yeah, obviously it's still part of our issue that we, when there is a bit of space, when teams like City, they give us a bit of space, we all know that we are better at that than when the opponent just parks the bus. But still, to go toe-to-toe with City and, maybe City weren't at the best and they absolutely made a few individual errors that helped us score as well. But we went more than toe-to-toe with them. I'm not necessarily going to say that we were the better team. I think some people are going to say that. I think it was a very even game that either team could have won, depending on how refereeing decisions and just moments of luck go your way or not. But we certainly went toe-to-toe with them and have absolutely nothing to hide about. And who the flip scores 4 goals against City? A lot of teams concede 4 against them, but who the flip scores 4 against them? Who would have thought that? We scored 8 goals in our last 2 games. 8 goals in our last 2 games. How many goals did we score in the first 6 games of the season? Like 4 or something like that? It's mental. Aaron, thank you so much for joining us. What a game. Would you agree that this is the craziest game in Stamford Bridge history? Obviously, there's a few, the Ajax 4-4, back against Liverpool, back in like the early 2000s and stuff. And I'm sure there was others beforehand that I'm not aware of. But to me, this seems to be the most insane game I've ever seen at Stamford Bridge.
Well, I'd say at least in recent time, definitely, because my heart was in my arse for the last like 15 minutes of that game. When I tell you I was so on edge, it was ridiculous. But yeah, that's the beautiful game, isn't it? It gets you stressed sometimes, but no, that was. Don't get me wrong. Obviously, it's annoying to only walk away with a point, and you scored 4 goals against Man City. You're thinking surely that's got to be enough to get a win, but it is what it is. At the end of the day, just proud of the team, how they played, and the fight that they showed to actually stay in the game and get a result out of it.
That's the biggest thing, isn't it? Because we went 1-0 down. We got it back to 2-1, then conceded right before halftime with stupid defending from that corner. Absolutely ridiculous. Then we go into the second half and essentially could go from 2-1 up to 3-2 down in the space of 2 in-game minutes because we concede like in the first or second minute of the second half from a counter-attack. There should have been a free kick. Instead, it was a throw-in. And, well, can you counter-attack from a throw-in? Debatable. Poor throw-in defending then, if you want to call it that. Then we get back to 3-3 from there. Then they score that 4-4 with that deflection from Rodri, even though I have to admit, I think it goes in without the deflection anyway. In the other corner, I'm not sure if Sanchez saved that. It looked to me like it was going perfectly into the bottom corner. But still. And then we get that penalty. Armando Broja, what an impact as a substitute. What an impact. Wins that penalty. And Cole Palmer, my guy's the coldest motherfucker I've ever seen. Did you see that penalty? My guy just puts it top corner against this youth team, his former team. We got the quotes from Pep Guardiola yesterday that Cole Palmer literally said it into his face. No, I want to leave. You're not going to play me. Even though Pep said, oh, but Mahrez is leaving. You're going to get your chance now and everything. He's like, nah, mate, I've had enough. I'm leaving. Shuts them up now. Sterling, by the way, as well. Absolutely on fire today. Now, he still had his few Sterling moments. My favorite thing of the whole day, and he was phenomenal. My favorite thing was when he nearly killed Phil Foden at the end. That was just beautiful. Love that. And he even celebrated. Even better. But, Aaron, would you also say that coming back from all of these moments of when things went against us, obviously going 1-0 down early, then conceding the equalizer just before half-time, going 3-2 down just after half-time, and we still never gave up. We still never stopped. Like, obviously, I'm sure a lot of us fans, both in the ground and watching at home, a lot of our hopes probably dipped a little bit when that 3-2 went in, and especially when that 4-3 went in. But the team never gave up. And sure, we more often do that against bigger teams, but even still, that they had to believe that we could still come back against City of all teams. To me, as much as we played well in the grand scheme of things overall, that we had that belief, to me, is the biggest positive that I take from the game. Would you agree with that, Aaron?
Yeah, 100%. You gotta remember, City are literally the best team in the world. Like, no two ways about it. They are the best team in the world. So to have an official who loves to go against your club and make horrific decisions on the pitch, many were done today as well. But to score 4 goals against the best team in the world and show that level of fight, they have to be very proud of themselves today. And it's not the first time we've seen that. Like, they are. One thing that you can say is they don't down tools. They do give it their all. And especially shout out Conor Gallagher, because that man, ridiculous how he's turned around his form from last season to this season. It's honestly, he feels like a new player. But yeah, he was ridiculous. But yeah, everyone was, to be fair.
Literally, and it's got to be interesting because Jamie is, I'm not going to call you a Gallagher hater, maybe that's a bit far, but you're certainly very critical of him usually. But honestly, at this point, it feels like every game there is, sure, there's always things he should and could do better with the ball at his feet. But when I imagine us playing without Gallagher, I'm like, we'd never have the ball because who'd ever win the ball back? Literally, that's what it feels like watching us at the moment. And yeah, we'll get into individual performance obviously later on. Shout out to Elias for the €5 super chat. Appreciate it very much. And he essentially said what you and me were just talking about, Aaron. The fact that we came back 3 times against the best team in the world should be reason alone to be happy with that performance. We showed character. Jamie, obviously you touched on it earlier. You can't be upset with that in total. But is that also the biggest positive to take away for you? The fact that we had things go against us, refereeing decisions, unlucky moments, deflected goals and everything, and going behind at really unfortunate or conceding at really unfortunate times in the end of the game. But we, unlike last season, unlike even previously this season, we didn't just capitulate. And to me, that's the best thing I've seen today.
Yeah, to be honest, well, just the general play, just how we played in general, I think is the most promising kind of thing. But yeah, a few seasons ago, last season, we go 1-0 down and we'd already be thinking game over, you know? So yeah, I think to do that 3 times, that's pretty incredible. And I just thought when Gusto missed that chance to put us 4-3 up, that was going to be game over. But we came back again, and yeah, that was amazing, man.
It absolutely was. And that's the thing you mentioned there, right? Obviously, there has to be a point where we also have to start winning games. We can't just draw every game and be happy with the performance. But again, as much as it's a bit frustrating because it's happened already a few times this season with the Arsenal one, the Liverpool one, because it's City, it's just different. And as much as that's maybe not the kind of statement that fits the standard that we have at Chelsea, where we want to beat everyone, we want to win the league and all sorts of things, obviously. Still, City are that good. They just won the treble last season, man. Like, they take the piss out of pretty much everyone they play, except Newcastle, apparently. And to be honest, Jamie, you're right. It's not just the fact that we came back, but there was large chunks of this game where we were at least equal with them, if not better. Tactically, I thought Pochettino did a lot of very smart things today. And we even had to take Reece James off just to make sure he doesn't like overwork himself, get injured again. And we still held on. And we still, I mean, you talked about that Gusto chance. Of course, there was also that Palmer chance. There was the Sterling run and then the Jackson chance where should he have even taken it off Sterling's feet? I don't know. But my God, I just can't even put it into words how baffled I still am by this game. I mean, let me bring this one up just quickly. XG, 3.37 for Chelsea, 3.23 for Man City. That's just ridiculous. You know how insane that is? Like, obviously, for us, we had a penalty, so that obviously helps that because to be fair, they did too, actually. But 3.37 against 3.23. Have you ever seen an XG of both teams having such high XG in a game, Aaron? Obviously, neither of us look at the XG of every game, I'm well aware. But still, I've never seen this.
No, the way that is ridiculous. The fact that it's so close, and the fact that I don't even know what to say, man. The XG is crazy, but you think about it, the XG was 3.37. That scoreline could have been a hell of a lot more. We had so many chances that we didn't take. Really, in essence, that should have been like at least 6 or 7 goals. But yeah, it is what it is. We take it and run.
There you go. Absolutely. I mean, Jamie, have you ever seen 3 against 3 in XG? Like, that's mad.
Nah, that's mad. I don't think I've seen that kind of XG before, but you could see it in the game. Like, it was so open between both teams. Like, every time one team would counter, then the other team would counter back, and you can tell where that came from. Like, it's not like hidden in the numbers or anything.
There you go. It really is. I mean, before we get into the lineup, let's talk about this for a second, I suppose. Fadil with the super chat, appreciate it very much. He says, Taylor screwed us again. Kind of. We'll get to the penalty in a second. First, I want to talk about the other moment, the 3-2 that we conceded straight after halftime. That to me is the biggest referee mistake of the day, as weird as that sounds, and I know some people are going to disagree with that, but I'll explain my reasoning in a second. But to me, that can't be a clearer foul on Gallagher than that was by, I think, Ruben Diaz, maybe Guardiola. Clearly just kind of trips him and pushes him over. Ball goes out of play. City get a throw in. Now, aside from the fact that obviously we need to defend that better, Caicedo against Haaland needs to be better. Thiago Silva, the way he pushed up, needs to be better. Disasi to cover the cross needs to be better. And Sanchez, if he gets a hand on it, needs to get a stronger hand on it. All of those things are valid. And also Cucurella needs to defend the cross better. All of that is valid. But to me, it's such a clear foul. And we go from, like, I'd never understand why if the VAR just makes such weird things. Yeah, we talk about all the decisions, that they get wrong. That's a separate issue. But to me, the whole rules and laws of how VAR is implemented just makes no sense. The fact that they don't deal with second yellow cards, why not? It changes the game equally as drastically as a straight red. It's a man sent off or not. How can you not get involved in those? I don't understand. How can you not question whether a throw-in was a correct decision when a goal comes from it? Like, when there's a foul in play, we check it. Why wouldn't you check if there's a foul and then the ball gets wrongfully given as a throw-in? I just don't understand why those things aren't checked, because if the ball goes out of play, remember Arsenal, Newcastle, where the ball questionably was or was not out of play, Arteta lost his shit over that. When the ball is potentially out of play, it's checked. But when it's just a wrong call from the ref, it's fine. But if the ref makes a wrong call in terms of a foul in open play, then it's not fine. I just don't understand. It just makes zero sense to me, honestly. But getting to the penalty, as much as maybe Doku shoves Caicedo into James a little bit, the biggest issue here is not the ref. The biggest issue here is James and Caicedo. What are you doing? The ball is literally there for you to clear it, and you just run into each other instead. And then someone was telling me James had a head injury. No, he didn't. He was lying on the floor. He got up literally as the cross came in. If he got up earlier and closed the crosser down instead of lying on the floor waiting for a free kick or something, we might have even stopped it as well. But that's aside from the fact that Haaland pulled Cucurella first. But the problem is that Cucurella still pulls Haaland. Now, I don't know how the rules are if the one guy pulls first and the other, because he pulled less hard, right? So where is the line? So that's why I'm a little bit less upset about that one than some people seem to be, because I'm like, well, Cucurella did still pull him. Yeah, there was things before and after. But still, in itself, I guess it's a foul. It's just so annoying because the ball would have never come to Haaland because Thiago Silva headed it away anyway. That's what makes it really, really frustrating. Doku fouled Reece, you think? If anything, you pushed Caicedo into Reece. But even still, they were undecided. Who clears it? Just fucking clear it, man. I mean, just quickly, I mentioned this one here by Ian before I let Aaron and Jamie speak on this. He says, if everything is checked, we would be here for a day, mate. That may be valid, but we already check so many ridiculous things in games, and things take so long to check. Like, they can check that offside, that throw-in situation as the ball is played. Let them play. It's fine. And if they then decide, actually, that was wrong, then you go back. Who cares? What difference does it make? When there's a second ball in play, they go back to take a free kick again or a goal kick again. When the referee needs to tell people off in the box for a corner, even though the corner's already played, they go back and play it again. That happens every time. Why can't we just do that? Just check it while the game is going on. You don't need to interrupt it every time. That's the biggest issue. You don't need to interrupt it. Just go back a couple of seconds. Game's long enough. You don't need to, game doesn't need to stop every time VAR looks at something. But hey, that's my opinion. Aaron, I'll start with you. Your thoughts on both the penalty and also that throw-in situation? Judging from what I've seen you say in the group chat, I think you're more upset by the penalty. But what do you also think about, obviously, the third goal and that throw-in that could have been a free kick for us instead?
Yeah, so if we look at the first goal, it's very harsh because there's different instances where Gallagher's on the floor, down injured, and they don't kick the ball out; they just carry on. Then whatever happens with Reece James and Caicedo happens. Okay, but then
was
Reece
Gallagher actually still on the floor when the first goal went in?
Yep. Gallagher was down injured, so they didn't kick the ball out; they carried on. Then the second instance, you got Caicedo and Reece James. Whatever happened there, if Doku pushed Caicedo a little bit into him, I'm not sure, but either way, the Reece James goes down and he's holding I think he had a hand on his head or something, indicating that something happened to his head. So at that point, the referee should then stop the game if there's a head injury to a player, which he doesn't. And then Haaland is the one who pulls Cucurella first. And you got to remember, Haaland is a very big, strong guy. Cucurella's little and nowhere near as strong as Haaland. So there's no way that little tug that he did wasn't enough to bring Haaland down. And it's very typical of City. They get a lot of these bullshit decisions go their way. I don't understand how. It was the same thing against Man United when they had the penalty given. I think it was Rodri who went down from Haaland. There was minimal contact and it got given as a penalty. They get away with a lot of these ones. I don't know why, but that was the first one. And then the third goal, there's a clear push in Conor Gallagher's back, 2 hands in the back, pushes him down, and you're thinking, okay, free kick in a decent position out wide, swing the ball in. They don't blow up. They just carry on. They're like, throw in. And then from the throw in, it leads to a goal. But that was a very clear foul, so I don't understand why that wasn't given either. So if they give the foul there, that prevents them from scoring a third. So in my books, really, their first and third are very controversial in that sense because they both should have been. They both should have been prevented
because of the penalty.
As in the penalty. So the first goal and then the third.
Sorry. For some reason, in my mind, the first goal wasn't the penalty. Now, my bad. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah. So the first and the third, I don't think either of them should have counted really, but it is what it is. Can't really do much about it now. That the Anthony Taylor it just adds onto the list of dodgy decisions. For example, there was the Walker handball as well when Edison's come out to clear it.
It was outside of the box, we have to admit. So it wouldn't. It wouldn't have been a red card or it wouldn't have been a penalty. So we probably
not even red card or penalty, but still in that instance, if it's hit him on the hand and his hand is well away from his body, that's a free kick and that's in a dangerous position. It's not too far away from the edge of the box, so that should have been a free kick as well. But yeah, we're used to this now. Any game that he referees, we're involved. There's normally a lot of bullshit going on.
Yeah, it does, and he also does these things where he does one situation, 1 or 2 per game for us. Where he does something, you're like, well, can't be biased against Chelsea. Like when he books Doku for diving. To me, he just does that so no one can say he has an agenda against Chelsea. It was a correct decision, mind you, because that's my problem with Anthony Taylor. I don't even think Anthony Taylor is that bad of a ref if he wasn't constantly so biased, or maybe it's even. Let's pretend for a second, give him the benefit of the doubt that he's actually not doing it on purpose. But I think. For us fans, we know every time Anthony Taylor refs a Chelsea game, we get fucked over. He knows that as well. Whether he does it on purpose or not, let's even say he doesn't do it the whole thing on purpose. He knows this. So subconsciously, he's more likely to make mistakes again, which is just why I can't understand why the FA ever let him ref our games again. Like that ref that made the VAR error for Liverpool Spurs. He's not reffing Liverpool games anymore this season. Why does that not happen for us? I don't get it. I do also sometimes feel that Chelsea don't do enough about this. Old ownership and new ownership. Other clubs complain. We do fuck nothing. And we get fucked over every time and no one does anything about it. It's a bit infuriating. But anyway, Jamie, where do you stand on all of those decisions? The penalty, the throw-in situation that leads to the 3-2. Where do you stand on both of those situations and decisions?
I think the pen never should have happened. That's probably the most outrageous one. You're allowed to have a little bit of shirt tugging. You can get away with that. But the reason why he got the space that he did was instead of just shirt holding, he pulled to get that inch of space ahead of Cucurella. And then Cucurella maybe fouls him afterwards, probably. But it's whoever.
When you think about it, if Cucurella just falls down as Haaland pulls him, he definitely gets a free kick.
Exactly, and he didn't. So, but that's
just the striker's instinct, isn't it? Defenders don't think of, I need to go down to get a free kick here. Attackers do, and unfortunately, that's what cost us here. Yeah, that's just why I'm not crying so much about it, because this was also not. I mean, I guess Taylor robbed us, I suppose, but it was a referee's decision, and VAR just didn't change it because it wasn't extreme enough of a mistake, which I probably agree with that. Like, I understand what all of you are saying in terms of there was a foul before, but I just don't know how the rules are in terms of if that foul isn't given, that doesn't make the thing after not a foul. Do you know what I mean? So I don't know.
The Doku was a foul. Like, Caicedo jumps and Doku doesn't jump to contest, so he's not contesting. All he does is lean into him whilst he's jumped.
But that's like, you're right. But why does Caicedo jump? Just block Doku off and let James clear it. That's my issue. That's my main why I'm annoyed at him, because I'm like, just don't be an idiot.
Caicedo and James clearly didn't communicate like who was going for it, so that's their fault. But to be honest, if you jump and the other person doesn't contest you, it's a foul. He didn't jump either. He just pushed. I think the throw in, like, that's, you can't go that far in play to call off a goal. Like,
no, you can't. Absolutely not. And also, VAR rules don't even allow that to happen. But it's still such an obvious foul, in my opinion. And it's right in front of the linesman. I just cannot understand how that's not given as a foul.
Yeah, that's just poor officiating, to be honest. Like, there's nothing we can really do about that. I'll talk about, like, Silva later, but I think I have no idea what he was doing throughout that whole sequence. They took about a minute to take that throw. The first thing you have to do as a centre back after the set piece doesn't go our way is start sprinting back to your own half. But he stays there for about 2 minutes, obviously thinking to swap places with Caicedo, but there's no reason for him to stay there. I know he's like blocking space and Caicedo's maybe covering him, but you need to just, as soon as the free kick didn't work out, you need to just sprint back. I also don't know why we committed so many bodies for a free kick that wasn't even in that dangerous of a position. Like, even Cucurella, like the small guys, were getting in the box for that set piece. So I think it was just a bit of a shit show with that. And yeah, no idea what Silva was doing for about a minute in their half. And obviously Haaland holds it up and then they counter from that. So
yeah, there you go. Unfortunately, we'll talk about obviously the second goal that they scored, that set piece defending again, or maybe set piece in general just aren't our strong point because we can't do them going forward and we can't do them defensively either. And of course, the Rodri goal as well as our own goals. But let's talk about the lineup for a second, shall we? Pretty much what you could have expected going into the game, with one exception, in my opinion. The fact that Levi Colwill was not involved. According to Pochettino, he has a small shoulder problem. So judging by that, I assume he's going to be back soon. But yeah, that's why he wasn't in the squad. And rather than Badiashile, it was picked, or Poch decided that it would be Disasi that plays instead of Colwill, Cucurella, then a left back. I'm really intrigued what he would have picked had Colwill not been injured. Would it have been Colwill a left back? Would it have been Cucurella anyway? Would then Colwill have played instead of Disasi? Who knows? I'm honestly not sure. But Jamie, I'll stick with you for this one. Were you pretty much happy with the team? Obviously, if Colwill is injured, what can you do? But otherwise, were you happy with the team? I guess you could say Badiashile for Disasi, but I also like Badiashile has only played against Blackburn since his injury. So I'm like, we need to just find the game to give him some minutes off the bench. We have 5 subs. I know it's a centre-back and you don't usually sub those, but you just need to do it. Because obviously you don't want to throw him in cold against City, but we need him to start. So at some point, you need to start playing it. But otherwise, I expected it to be Sterling over Mudry. I expected Palmer to start. You couldn't not play Jackson after getting a hat-trick, really, could you? So I was pretty happy with the team. Were you as well, Jamie?
Yeah, it was to be expected, as you said, with Cole out. Like, Cucurella comes in, Badiashile hasn't had enough game time. I was thinking maybe Jackson would be dropped and we do Palmer Gallagher again. That worked pretty well against Arsenal, but
I think that would have happened if Palmer didn't, if Jackson didn't get a hat-trick.
Yeah, exactly. So you can't really drop him after that. But yeah, to be expected, everything else, to be honest.
There you go. I'll get to the super chat by Lurifix in a second. But Aaron, your thoughts on the team? Pretty much as expected, in your opinion as well? Or was there anything you were not happy with?
No, it was pretty much as expected. Obviously, the only one that we didn't know about until we heard about him being injured was Levi Colwill. You would have thought if he was fit, then he probably would have played. But aside from that, pretty much expected at this point, because the midfield three doesn't really change. We don't really have anyone else to put in there. Front three kind of speaks for itself. Jackson coming off a hat-trick, you can't drop him. And then Sterling and Palmer being the wide men, because the other two haven't exactly been great themselves. And yeah, backline as well, pretty much. Cucurella's been in good form, so you can't really be dropping him. You got no one to put in that position either. Silva and Disasi, they were all right as well. So if you haven't got Cole available, Badishaw's only just coming back from an injury, so you don't want to throw him straight in. So it kind of made sense for me, to be honest.
There you go. I mean, Lurifix, I'm not sure what you mean, but you sure can. Maybe Jamie's comment in terms of you can't go back that far, but it's different because, I mean, I know Jamie said you can't go back that far, but it's not even about whether you can or not. It's about that once a throw-in is given, VAR does not have the permission within the footballing rules to overturn a throw-in decision. They can do that for penalties, for red cards, offsides, and for goals. That's it. Everything else, VAR cannot change. So no yellow cards, no fouls. If it isn't a red card and it doesn't lead to a goal, they can't do anything about those things. So as much as you're right, but offside is unfortunately one of those things that they can go back on. But a throw-in being given rather than a free kick, they can't. So
the problem with that one is it happened right in front of the linesman as well. So even if the referee doesn't see it clearly and he's looking at it from behind, the linesman is stood right in front of it, has a perfect view of it. He should be the one to then flag and say, actually, that's a foul.
Yeah, exactly. But like you say, if it's in front of the linesman, and I just genuinely cannot understand how he sees that wrong, because we can't even blame Taylor for this one, because you see the linesman waving the flag for a throw-in instantly. So there's definitely no time for Taylor to give him a decision in his ear, in the earpiece, to say, oh, foul, throw in. I just don't believe that. So that to me is a linesman issue. So maybe we shouldn't just have an issue with Taylor himself, but his whole bloody staff, because it's not just him that's a moron against us, is it? Bloody hell. But yeah, we were all pretty happy with the team. So I suppose let's get through these player ratings, starting with Rob Sanchez in goal. I want to say something. Now, we did have Edouard Mendy, who was also awful at penalties. But that attempt of saving a penalty by Sanchez was so bad. He jumped as Haaland was still like a step from the ball. I don't understand what you're doing. I don't get it. I understand you obviously commit early to try if he puts it in the corner so you can get it. But, mate, it's Haaland you're playing against. You're not playing some League Two Brighton-ass player here. Hey, just wait and try off. Not like wait and then try to see where he's putting it. But don't move early, because it just makes it so easy. This is why Jorginho scores all of his penalties, because goalkeepers don't understand that they shouldn't move early. I will never understand. But other than that, Sanchez actually made a lot of really, really good saves. That save from Haaland in the first half, there was a few that weren't outrageous, but he kept all of them well. He didn't let any of them really bounce. Maybe on that Haaland goal, the third one, maybe he could do a bit better because he gets a hand on the cross. But I'm like, if he gets more on it, maybe it bounces on Disasi and goes in. I think that's harsh almost to be critical of him for that goal. So I think in the grand scheme of things, even though he conceded 4 goals, because he still made some good saves, I would give him a 7. Aaron, do you think I've gone over the board here? I know you've been very critical of him, as have I, but I still think he made a lot of saves today. So as much as he conceded 4 goals, if I don't think he can really do anything about any of them, outside of maybe the third one, what can I say and what can I really criticize? I mean, he made 4... How many saves did he make a total? 6 saves, 4 diving saves. I don't know. I mean, the passing accuracy wasn't great in terms of long balls, 4 out of 14, but it's also because Jackson can't hold the ball up. So that's its own separate issue. Have I gone too high? Maybe I've gone too high. Aaron, let me know.
It's difficult because he's conceded 4 goals, and normally when a keeper concedes 4 goals, you think, oh, like you must have had an absolute shocker. But he actually made some decent saves. Like there was one opportunity that Haaland had where he was sort of running through and tried to go to, I think it was Sanchez's bottom left, and he managed to make a good save there. Yeah. There was a Doku effort, a goal where it was kind of through a few bodies, so it was a little bit difficult to see. Obviously, it was straight at him, but still, he managed to keep that one under control and save that. So he did make a few decent saves. The passing, obviously, is always going to be an issue with him. I feel like it's just a running theme every week that his passing is not good at all. But yeah, for the saves that he made, I don't think he went too high. I'd probably agree.
Fair dues. Jamie, would you agree with a 7 as well, or do you think we've gone too high?
Nah, 7 seems about fair, to be honest. No real mistakes, some good saves. Only thing a bit dodgy with his distribution. Like I can't really tell if he's good on the ball with his feet or not, because he will do a lot of these like loose passes that go in for like throw-ins. But then he'll do some very like neat through like passes straight down the middle that kind of release like the midfield. He'll see the picture like quite well when there's space in the middle to kind of play that pass, and then it kind of leads us to break through them. That happened a few times when he spotted Enzo or Caicedo or Gallagher in the middle, and then straight away we split through their midfield, which doesn't happen often to City, to be honest.
No.
So that's impressive. But yeah, the loose balls, I guess it happens when you're trying to play out a lot, which is fair to say with him. So I think 7's about fair.
Fair dues. Full agreement for Robert Sanchez then. Let's get to these centre-backs. And I want to start with Thiago Silva because he scored today, and he scored a huge goal because that 1-1, getting back to 1-1 so soon after conceding, I think played a crucial part in us not eventually capitulating here and eventually conceding 2 goals, and then God knows how many we concede. That 1-1 was crucial. So obviously Thiago Silva had a crucial positive moment in that sense, but I think defensively he had so many bozo moments today. There was one moment where, well, Cucurella got past and Enzo was over there, and then all of a sudden Silva storms towards both of them, and was it Foden who had the ball? I think so. And he just, like, he stormed in so quickly, but because there was 2 Chelsea players there already, he couldn't really tackle. And then Foden just ran past all of them and then had miles and miles of space because Cucurella wasn't there, Enzo wasn't there, and Thiago Silva was there, so the whole left defensive side was gone. And thankfully it didn't lead to nothing, but that was baffling. Jamie, you mentioned it in terms of the third goal we conceded. Their throw-in, Silva is super high up the pitch, caught in absolute no man's land. Now, you never know whether he can stop the goal or not. It might happen regardless. But obviously, we had a man less in trying to defend their counter-attack. And because they spread the field, and Cucurella had to push so far wide because City obviously played it to their right winger, we were down a man in the middle, and maybe we could have stopped it otherwise. It was difficult to tell. But there were certainly defensive moments where Thiago Silva I'm like, what are you doing? But he was also great in some other moments, some great defensive movements. The passing out from the back from him today, I thought was really, really good, actually. He scored the goal. So in total, I'm still giving him a 6.5 because he scored. But as a team, we conceded 4 goals, and I'm blaming the defense a lot more for this and the team than the goalie. So, you know, because people say, oh, how did Sanchez get a high rating then? But yeah, I just think Silva as an individual made more errors in that sense. Hence why I'm only giving him a 6.5 despite the goal. Jamie, what would you give Thiago Silva? You've touched on the one mistake in terms of that third goal already. Did you also see other moments where he made mistakes? How do you value the goal? What rating would you give him?
This one's tough because he seemed to be involved in like everything. Like he deflected the shot as well that went in. I don't know. He's so composed on the ball, so I love that in him as a centre back. But there, like, for someone with like so much experience, I never see him instructing or like being quite clear in decision making when we like defend. Like, for example, the corner that they played out, like he immediately decides to step up, which is the right thing to do. Everyone needs to step up to play everyone offside because they played it all the way back there for Silva to cross it in. So he runs up, which is fair, but he doesn't tell everyone, like, you need to tell everyone to push up with you. You can't just do that and then the rest of the guys are still marking guys in the box and not pushing up. Like, it seems like whenever he communicates, it's like more like nagging, or like his hands are behind his side. He's like complaining at people rather than actually instructing people, which I really don't like in someone.
I don't like that either. I agree with that, actually.
But yeah, that corner one was so stupid. Like, you can't, like, he's one of our few like tall or good aerially players on the pitch, and we have quite a small team today, to be fair. So if you're going to make the decision to like run up and play everyone offside and not mark someone in the box, you need to make sure everyone else is doing that. So I think that was, other than the throw-in where he spends about 2 minutes like in their pitch and not running back, 2 pretty massive mistakes. So I think I'll give him a 6 because those are 2 big mistakes.
Obviously, we're doing Thiago Silva's rating now, but I guess if we talk about it, and if you mention him for that second goal, let's talk about that goal we conceded from the corner. You obviously spoke your piece on it now in terms of Thiago Silva, but it's a really weird one. I'll bring Aaron into it in a second on this as well, because you were saying, well, we had slightly different opinions in the group chat on this as well, because initially, before they played short, it's Enzo that's with Akanji, and then as the ball is played short, Enzo pushes up. like you touched on, I didn't see Thiago Silva do it, but I'll take your word for it, Jamie. But Enzo is one of those that pushes up. And you can just see Akanji going from being marked by Enzo to being completely alone. Then Aaron says Gallagher starts all of a sudden running essentially towards Akanji, but runs past him. And doesn't like stop with him. Then the ball is played in. Thiago Silva is too far to win the header, and Akanji has a completely free header into, the corner. I also think Sanchez's positioning was a bit questionable. Like, why wasn't he not even in the middle? I don't understand. But anyway, I'm really not sure who is really at fault for the goal that we conceded from that corner, because Enzo was with him first, runs off. But then you could argue Enzo should do that because they played it short. But I'm like, should you do that and then leave your man unmarked? I don't know. But I obviously don't know for sure how we defend set pieces. Is it zonal? Is it man? Is it mix of both? I think it's probably a mix of both. That's kind of what most teams do nowadays. But you don't know for sure as a fan what areas are zonal, what players are supposed to be man-marked, right? So it's a really tough one for me who to blame for this one. That's why I haven't picked out Silva or Enzo or Gallagher, because I'm like, well, I don't know what the set piece plan was. So how can I know for sure who made the mistake? If Enzo was supposed to man mark Akanji, it's Enzo's mistake. Regardless of whether we should push up or not.
I'd have to disagree with that, because the first thing you learn when you're like playing football, like even when you're like at youth level, is when the ball comes out to that deep from the set piece and it's played short like that. But when you're defending from that area, you need to all step up as one. You just run 10 meters, everyone run 10 meters up, and everyone's offside and they can't play a single ball. Like, Silva knows to do that because he's an experienced guy, so he stepped up. Enzo, Enzo basically did the same thing as well. But the rest of them were just like standing there, not even moving, still marking players. And obviously the City players are all just going to come into space with the other guys moving up. Like, it's so like basic that when a ball gets played that far deep from the corner, you all have to step up, and that's why I'm like kind of hating on Silva a little bit, because he's meant to be the like organizer of the defense, and he's new to step up. But he doesn't say, like, if you go back and watch it, he just runs up. He doesn't like action people with his hands. He doesn't tell people to move up with him, or do you just go get up. Like, you have to say that, but he just runs up. It was ridiculous, and the rest of them were just standing there. It's quite elementary kind of football with that. Fair enough, like, you're not in that many situations where people take that kind of set piece routine, so I guess you don't train it, but it's just common sense. You have to have one player that tells everyone to move up, and then they all move up, and then no goal.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, obviously you could then, from that perspective, you can certainly say it's kind of Thiago's fault, because if he isn't that defensive leader that makes those calls, who is? But my take from everything you've said as well, because I agree, is still that this is a coaching staff issue, this goal, and not because it's too easy to blame any individual. Because if only 2 players or maybe 3 moved up after balls played short, you can't blame those 2. But if it's so many others that don't do it, I think it's too easy to say, it's all like they all did it wrong. To me, it's like, well, then it's clearly not taught to them properly that they need to do that. Obviously, like you say, Jamie, you're taught that very early on, and that's a valid point. But I still think, to me, that's more of a coaching staff issue. I mean, you saw Pochettino absolutely losing his mind. So someone, or maybe nearly all of them, did something wrong. But I think it's a bit, I'm not going to deduct points from any individual for this goal, because to me, it's either collective or a coaching staff issue, for me anyway. Aaron, your thoughts on that goal that we conceded, and then take that into the Thiago Silva rating as well.
Yeah, so on the goal, I feel like they took the short corner and it comes out to Bernardo Silva. I don't know why no one's pressing Bernardo Silva in that position. He's got
Palmer should have done, but he just jogged towards him.
Yeah, he should have been pressed a lot harder. They shouldn't have been able to then have that much time and space to put a cross into the box. Enzo then loses Akanji in the box, and Akanji sort of goes away from him more towards the central area. And then what I saw on the replay was Gallagher looks over his shoulder to see Akanji, and then just starts to move forward, pays no attention to where Akanji is, goes past Akanji, and the ball comes in. As the ball's coming in, Akanji moves into that space, and there's a free header, and that's how he scores. So I feel like it's a combination of Palmer not pressing Bernardo in order to try and stop the cross coming in, then Enzo for losing Akanji in the first place, and Gallagher for looking over his shoulder, seeing Akanji's there, and doing nothing about it, and just going forwards instead. So I feel like it's a a combination of all three of them that were out of fault for that. But just to go into the Thiago Silva rating, then he scored the goal that was important to get us level early on to try and stop them from building a bit of momentum and getting more. Because once City score one goal, then that gives them that edge where they're like, yeah, let's push on and get more. So even it up was good. But in terms of defensively, there were moments where you kind of just look at it and you think there are things that you could have done a lot better. There was times where runs weren't being tracked properly. I remember there was one where Haaland managed to get in between Disasi and Silva. Disasi was further forward than Silva and it slotted through onto Haaland's left side. I think that may have been when the Robert Sanchez save was made. Yeah, I think that was the one there. But yeah, when you concede 4 goals as a defender, obviously it's Rich saying that because of what we gave Sanchez is a bit different. But yeah, the goal kind of brings his rating up a little bit, but conceding 4 and having some shaky moments in there. The one thing that he did have was he was very calm and collected on the ball. So it kind of helped in situations where someone's going to be able to take a touch, relax, pass the ball off, and you're not going to be too worried about them losing possession. So I think I'd go with the 6.5 as well, actually.
Fair dues. A 6.5 it shall be then, with 2 6.5s and 1 6. Let's get to Axel Disasi, his centre-back partner. I don't know what I think of him, because obviously he didn't score, but he also didn't make, I think, as many mistakes as Silva. But in terms of in possession, he also had less responsibility than Silva. So it's kind of difficult because he conceded 4 goals. But I think defensively he was actually better than Silva, but obviously he didn't score. But he still conceded 4 goals. So him, I almost want to give like a 5.5, but it seems super unfair because I actually think individually as a defender, he was better than Thiago. So I don't really know. Aaron, did you want to go first? Do you have something in mind for Disasi already and how you want to do it? Or do you even agree with me that maybe he was defensively better, but obviously didn't score? So then what do you do when they conceded 4 goals?
Yeah, I kind of agree with you in that sense because I'm just looking through his game stats now and he had 7 clearances, blocked a shot, only 1 tackle, which is quite concerning for a centre-back, especially when you're playing against Man City and they're pushing on up the pitch.
Thiago had 0. So.
That tells me a lot then. But yeah, he's...
Although I have to say, I'm not sure how often you look at these tackle stats, but I'll tell you one thing from looking at them every week, these tackle stats are weird. Sometimes it says 0 tackles by a player when I'm like, I literally watched him make 3 slide tackles. How is it no tackle? So I'm never 100% sure about that stat. But the other stats, please do take them into account.
Yeah, with Disasi, he was defensively a bit better than Silva. Obviously, didn't get a goal, so can't really boost his rating up in that sense, and conceded 4. There was a few times where it was towards the end of the game. I don't know if you saw, he was over towards the right side and the ball was in the air. He sliced it, then he messed up and had to header it out to give him a throw in. And there was times where his passing wasn't particularly great, where he was trying to lump it long a little bit and he got closed down and then blocked and then panicked a little bit and had to go back to Sanchez. So he wasn't as assured on the ball as Silva either. So I'd probably go for like a 5.5. I know it's harsh, but you conceded 4 goals at the end of the day. So whether they were just or not, you still conceded 4. So you kind of have to hold that.
Yeah, there you go. So weird one because there's a few people in the chat that want like a 7. Rich says Disasi was class today. Let's be real. Someone says Disasi was a monster. Disasi was cooking in the second half. It's a tough one because I don't even disagree with these comments. Well, I disagree with the ratings because I'm like, we conceded 4 goals. I can't give a centre back a 7 when we conceded 4 goals.
Actually, I'd move mine up to a 6. I remember he done one proper shithouse sliding tackle to. I can't
True, actually, at the edge of the box, wasn't it?
Yeah, I'll give him a 6. Yeah, that was close.
I would probably go 6 as well, but I'm happy for Jamie to potentially still change my mind. Jamie, what would you give Disasi? Especially when you see the chat, a couple of people in the chat saying it should be a 7 and stuff. Oh, well, we've lost Jamie. I'm sure he'll be back in a second. But we'll just move on for now. Leave Disasi at a 6 and move on over to the other side to Mark Cucurella. Yeah, it's again a difficult one to rate because I thought he was really good, but obviously he gave away a penalty. At the same time, we are kind of most of us. So what's happening? Not bad. I'm not sure if you can hear me, Jamie. If you can, I will kick you out now. Oh no, now you're back. Hello, Jamie. Can you hear me?
Hey, sorry about that.
It's all good. Back to Disasi then. 2 6s from us in the end. where do you put Disasi? Like I say, a couple of people in the chat wanted a 7. People said, he was phenomenal. He says the team conceded 4, not Disasi. Where was the midfielder for any of those goals? Well, those midfielders will get their ratings in due course, but it still doesn't mean, Disasi gets a rating as if we kept a clean sheet, in my opinion. But Jamie, where do you stand on Disasi's rating? Because like we and Aaron touched on, I think he was purely defensively speaking, he was better than Thiago. But as a team, we weren't that good defensively, and he didn't score. So how can I give him a higher rating than Silva?
I think 6 is about fair. Silva was a little bit more composed on the ball than Disasi was, but he didn't make really too many errors. I remember near the end, he kind of he does one of these passes a game where he has lots of time on the ball and he tries to thread one straight down the middle, which is the right thing to do, but it just goes straight to the opposing team. He does that quite often, which really, really pisses me off. But I think 6 is about fair. I just don't particularly like Silva and Disasi as a combination. They're both
same.
They're both a bit kind of standoffish defenders. I'd like to have one that's a bit more aggressive that kind of wins. That's why we've seen the tackling stats. Neither of them really made a tackle, because they both like to sit off a little bit and they don't really trust pushing up. I think Colwell's
to interject there and add something to it. I think that's why Thiago did that weird thing he did for that third goal. If he's playing next to Colwell, I don't think he does that, because then if anything he leaves Colwell to do that. But because he's with Disasi, he knows Disasi is a bit like me in that sense too. So I think he almost tries to make himself more aggressive than he naturally is, and that in itself isn't healthy or isn't positive, because when they can't just play like they naturally play, you're always more likely to do things wrong, in my opinion.
Yeah, Silva was I noticed he was a bit more aggressive on the press as well today. There was a few times where he stepped up quite a bit, which was actually nice to see. Well, I think that's maybe because, as you said, Disasi is also very standoffish. He doesn't really like to kind of push up high. I don't know whether it's because he doesn't trust his pace or defending on the back foot, but just them as a pair, not really my favorite. I prefer Colwell on one of them, or obviously if Fofana's back or Badiashile, maybe that works a little bit better. But I think Badiashile is quite kind of prefers to be the deepest center back as well, to be honest, because he's quite composed, but he doesn't really play too aggressive either. So Colwell needs to be paired with one of these guys, in my opinion. Or obviously Fofana is very aggressive in his kind of play as well. So when he's back, I think that's a nicer combination, to be fair. But yeah, overall 6 seems about right.
There you go. I would say so as well. I mean, some people in the chat are very unhappy with it. Someone said here, Silva deflected, let them score a goal too, and he get higher than Disasi. Well, but a deflection, he tried to fucking block it. you can't have a go at a defender for that. It's just unlucky. It's as simple as that. Let's get to Marco Cucurella then. It's kind of like what Mitch says here. Cucur's over-aggressiveness creates so many turnovers and counterattacks, but on the other hand, leaves us susceptible to many attacks. Double-edged sword. Maybe I wouldn't put it quite as extremely, but this is obviously what you get from Cucurella. But I want to highlight, before we talk about, he gave away a penalty, even though none of us think it should have been a penalty, so should we even hold that against him? As well as then his yellow card. Because even if you give that as a penalty, I think it's ridiculous to give a yellow card, by the way. But anyway, to me, Cucurella was so impressive in possession, in us trying to beat City's press, because how many teams do you see play against Man City and play through them? And we did that on multiple occasions today. And to me, Enzo and Cucurella and Thiago Silva, them three together were the main reasons why that happened over and over and over again. I already saw a few people in the chat slate Enzo as well. We will get to that. But those three in particular was the main reason why, in my opinion, we handled City today. In the sense of that we managed to beat their press and they weren't allowing them to suffocate us. And Cucurella played a huge role in that. I also thought I really liked it tactically, how we set it up, how Cucurella kind of pushed here and Enzo pushed there, which gave Enzo space from the press, from City, from Alvarez usually, and put Cucurella into a position where Silva or Sanchez or Enzo can just feed him the ball. And then Sterling kind of came here towards the passing outlet for Cucurella. It worked absolutely beautifully. And I absolutely loved it. Now, obviously, there is a few occasions where Cucurella, got beaten and, someone got past him, like Phil Foden. But I'm like, it's Phil Foden. It's a top player in one of in the best team in the world. James also got done by Doku a couple of times. It happens. Just because a fullback gets beaten by a winger every now and again doesn't mean he's playing bad. That happens. It's part of being a fullback. Every now and again, you're going to get beaten. Dani Alves did, Cafu did, Maldini playing left back did. It happens, man. It is what it is. Do you know what I mean? Like Kyle Walker got absolutely rinsed to pieces by Raheem Sterling today. But for me, Marco Cucurella, JP says 7.5. I'm not sure if I'm willing to go that high. I'm going to say 7 because of how important and how good I thought he was in helping us beat their press and playing out from the back. He was so good at that. Even when I look at the stats, 84% passing accuracy, especially with how many risky passes he plays as well. And 84%, in this case, being 31 out of 37 is strong in my opinion. Accurate long balls, 2 out of 4 is good too. Tackles 1, 3 out of 4, really strong. Ground duels, 6 out of 10. That's better than all the other defenders have, by the way, more than Reece James and more than the 2 centre-backs in terms of duel percentage. You know what? Actually, I changed my mind. I'll give him a 7.5. You know what? Big up yourself, Cucurella. I'm a big fan. I just love the remontada is like off this scale, literally. Aaron, I'll go with you first. Thoughts? Have I gone too high? Did you agree with me in terms of that he was so good in terms of helping us beat the press and stuff? How did you see Cucurella today?
Yeah, I thought he was class again. His upturn in form this season when he's played has been ridiculous if you compare it to the player that you were seeing last season, and the fact that it's not just Cucurella, but it's Gallagher as well. 2 players who we thought, they were done here. They'd get shipped off. Pochettino's come in, and you have to attribute some of it to the players themselves for applying themselves, but the manager as well being able to get that level of performance out of these players who just weren't doing anything last season is very impressive. But in terms of today, I felt like he dealt with his side quite well. Obviously, it's against City, it's very difficult because you've got a lot of pressure coming at you when you lose the ball. They'll ping it up the pitch, and that's it. They use their wide areas quite well. You've got dangerous wingers either side who are looking to cut inside, go on the outside. You don't really know what they're going to do. So for the most part, he did well in dealing with that. I do think that there are times where he's sort of isolated at the back because his left winger, who was Raheem Sterling, wasn't always running back to help him either. So there were points in the game where it was kind of like you had a barrage of attack coming towards Cucurella, and there's only so much one man can do. So it was a little bit difficult for him in that sense. But overall, I do think he had the above average game. I think he was quite decent actually. So I'd probably go with a 7.5 as well. I've got no problem with that.
Fair dues. Jamie, do you agree with me and Aaron as well, or would you go for something different? A few people in the chat seem to agree, but obviously it doesn't mean you will. So Jamie, what did you think of Cucurella? And especially in terms of the build-up, whether you also thought that was his best attribute today?
Yeah, I'd probably give him, I was going to say 7, but 7.5 is also, you can push it to that because he was very composed on the ball compared to last season. Like, he was nowhere near as composed. He had a lot of ball losses and a lot of backward passes as well that we saw last season. But now he's really just, you can see a bit of confidence. He's looking to play forward all the time. Some give and goes with Enzo were quite nice as well. If I'm being harsh, maybe the 3rd goal where they counted off the throw-in. I think someone called that they were marking the inside, so he should have marked Alvarez's run down the outside a bit quicker because that was the obvious pass, and I think he just gave too much room on that one because the inside ball was marked as well. So he was a bit slow with that one. So that's probably why I would give a 7. But on the ball, nothing to complain about. And yeah, he's like, his aggressiveness is like, as that person said, double-edged sword. But I think it's more positive than negative because it really helps kind of set off a lot of these like counters and chances we have, and it's probably worth it to do that. Once we get better, like in possession and a little bit more comfortable defending counters, then it's really gonna be even more important for us that we have a player that can kind of press like this.
Yeah, valid, absolutely valid. Obviously, we have 2.7.5s. I feel a bit bad, Jamie, because there's been a couple of times it was 2 from me and Aaron against your one slightly different.
7.5 is fair. Let's go.
There you go. We'll move up to the midfield in a second. I want to highlight this comment here by Ritz because I think, well, it's a very valid point to make. He says, this is the problem with Chelsea. A couple of things go differently, and Cucurella is wearing a Man United shirt. Now he's starting for us against City. Stinks of poor planning. And you're right. You're right. We were inches away from we were trying to almost force Cucurella to go to Man United on that loan. And the only reason we backed out of it, or the only reason Man United backed out of it, is because we didn't want to allow them an option to send him back in January. Because obviously that's the only reason they wanted the left back, is because Reguilon and not Reguilon, Malacia and Luke Shaw picked up an injury, and then they got Reguilon instead. And that is absolutely valid. And that's not ideal, because I'm like, how? So, because Cucurella seems like the type of guy that would be a good trainer, to me at least, right? So I can't understand how, I mean, unless they overruled Poch on it, but I just don't really see how, how Poch is like, oh, no, I don't need him, let's ship him off. And now we've been in a position so many times this season that we needed Cucurella due to other players being injured. Reece James, then Gusto being suspended. Obviously, Ben Chilwell constantly being injured. What do you mean you send out Cucurella? I mean, we've never played Marta left back. Who knows if he's good there in the Premier League? But yeah, I do agree with this, Reece. I do agree. But let's not get too hung up on it for too long. And let's move up into midfield. And Jamie, I'll actually let you go very first on Moises Caicedo, because I'm not that happy with him today, but also with him kind of for the most part since he's joined. What did you think of Caicedo today? What do you think his issues are, if you think there are any? And because my issue is I barely notice him. And I'm not sure if that's because he just does nothing, which I think, or if it's because he does things that I don't notice. So tell me your thoughts, and obviously also today's rating.
Yeah, I think he was probably our worst player on the pitch. Like, he'll definitely get the lowest rating. The thing is, like, okay, we didn't buy him to, like, sure, he is good on the ball. We've seen it, like, he more so for Brighton, but like we've seen in the games that he is playing, that he's very composed, like he keeps it ticking well. His switches of play in the last few games, long passes, accuracy and stuff has been really good. But this game, I think, because Enzo was kind of distributing a little bit more. What I'm disappointed with him is we looked a bit kind of like lost in the midfield. Yeah.
Sorry, I realized we skipped Reece James. We'll finish Caicedo first, and then we'll go back to Reece. My bad.
Yeah, I feel like our midfield was like, when we don't have the ball, they were just ball watching a lot. Like, in terms of when one presses, another one needs to mark the guy that he's kind of left. Like, so many times Enzo pushes up to kind of press, and then he throws his hands up because Caicedo doesn't take his man. And it was just a lot. You just see when City had the ball and they moved a lot, moved the ball around a lot, there was always a spare man in that midfield. And I know it's not completely their fault, but it was due to a lot of like ball watching, not really covering their man. And I think Caicedo is the guy we brought in to kind of clean up play, to kind of watch these things and make sure they don't attack as well. But like, we haven't really seen much of his like ball winning attributes. Like, we thought he'd kind of be like the replacement for Kante, but really he hasn't really, I don't know what the stats are, but he hasn't won that many balls or like done. No. When you watch these clips of him at Brighton, like, or watch him playing, his ball winning abilities are crazy. And so many tackles, like the cleanest tackle you can kind of do is the one where the attacker is kind of running and they don't see you coming from their blind side. So he was so good at like kind of having these blindside tackles at Brighton, and I saw him do that all season, but I haven't seen any of that from him at all, to be honest, which is a bit weird, because you don't just kind of lose your whole main skill set as a footballer. So I don't know whether it's kind of settling in, confidence, but we haven't seen what we brought him in to do just yet. But yeah, I'm still pretty confident in him as a player, because you don't just kind of lose that ability overnight. Like, I think it will come over time. He's still young. But yeah, today I'll probably give him like a 5, to be honest.
To be honest, mate, you've gone higher than I will, but I let Aaron go first and then bring my piece at the end. Aaron, where do you stand on Caicedo? Today specifically, obviously, but I guess also a bit more broader if you want to. And then what rating would you give him?
In terms of a broader perspective, I kind of felt like he was starting to grow into his role a bit more game by game. He was starting to get a bit more comfortable. But today, I don't know, like when you compare it to Spurs on Monday, he actually had a good game in my opinion. But today, it was just like he was non-existent. Like there were so many times where I didn't even realize he was on the pitch because there was just nothing. He wasn't getting involved in anything. There was a lot of times where they'd play one pass and it'd be through the midfield and they're already running on towards the defense, and you're just thinking you're meant to be sitting at that base of a double pivot. You're meant to be breaking up the play, trying to move the ball forward, and I didn't really see much of it today from him. It was quite disappointing. And when you're looking at it, obviously we're going to get into the rest of the midfield, but when you're looking at that midfield, you're seeing 115 million and 105 million. Yet the guy who comes from your academy is actually outperforming them for the whole season so far. And we're 11, 12 games in. He's outperformed both of them. So yeah, for that price tag and the role that he has, he's really going to have to step up his game because we can't have performances against big sides like City where you're both in the pivot just aren't really doing it for me. They need to really up their game, especially Caicedo.
I agree. What rating would you give him today then, mate?
I probably would have gone even lower than that. I probably would have gone for like a 4, I would say. Or even, 4. I'm probably not going to go as low as 3.5, but 4.
Fair enough. See, the reason I've changed it to a 4 on screen now is because I would actually even go 3. Because what does he do? Like, he played pretty much the whole game, 89 minutes, and he had 50% less touches than Enzo, who played half an hour less than him. Like, he doesn't win the ball, like Jamie touched on. He had 1 tackle. Okay, it was at least successful. His ground duel percentage is 1 out of 4. As a defensive midfielder, that's awful. Like, I always just see him running after people, not really catching them up, not having a pace to catch them up and tackle them. He doesn't like anticipate where the ball's going to go to tackle it or intercept it. And I don't really. And on the ball, he's decent for a good. Like, he's a good player, but when looking compared next to Enzo, he's nowhere near as good. So I'm like, okay, so you don't really help us defensively, but you're not as good on the ball as the guy next to you. So what benefit do you have? Like, Caicedo at the moment is like, he's worse than Jorginho and Kovacic. Like, he doesn't control the ball as well as Jorginho does. He doesn't dribble as well as Kovacic does. And arguably defensively, he's worse than both of them so far, right? With the exception potentially against Spurs. But to me, it's just like he's been so poor. It just does nothing. Like, look at Cucurella, for example. Being poor for a few weeks and months doesn't mean you're now a poor player, like Jamie touched on. There's certain things that he did at Brighton. He won't have just completely forgot how to do them. But he's just not doing them for us. That doesn't mean I want him gone. That doesn't mean I don't want him to play. That doesn't mean I hate him or don't rate him or any of those things. That just means I'm saying he hasn't been good enough so far and he needs to step up. And I'm sure he will eventually. But I just think he's been poor. And I'm like, you touched on it there. Palmer cost us 45 odd million. Caicedo cost us 115. Now, who's been better? Do you know what I mean? Like, even obviously Enzo's been very expensive as well, and Enzo maybe hasn't been quite as, the performance levels haven't been to the point of his price tag either. But a lot more than Caicedo. Like, I watch Enzo play. I see the way he, handles the ball, shall I say? What passes he looks for, what moments he looks for. There's things he should do better. His shooting needs to be better. Decision making needs to be better. Sometimes the defensive awareness or communication with his teammates, like what Jamie touched on in terms of Enzo pushes, but no one else cleans him after him. I'm like, well, then shout before you move, or don't run, because it's all well and good that you want to press, but if it leaves a 15-yard gap behind you, then it's not worth it. So, so there's things that Enzo needs to work on for sure as well. But for me, Caicedo is just, I just think he's been poor because he doesn't offer anything. He doesn't, okay, his pass completion is 87%, 27 out of 31. That's good, but how does he have less passes than Cucurella? That's the first question. Obviously, you play out from the back and everything, and we use the left more than the right, but still. And none of his passes, it's not like he tries any passes that help us beat the opponent. It's like he plays a switch to the left or a through ball on the right or a through ball. It doesn't do that. He just passes it to Reece James, Enzo Fernandez, or the centre back. Maybe Gallagher on a few occasions, or maybe Palmer. But never. He doesn't complete any difficult passes. So he doesn't do any difficult passes. He doesn't win any tackles defensively. So then what do you do? What did we pay 115 million shot? Now, he had that one shot from distance where he hit it straight at Rodri. I'm like, anyway, maybe I've been harsh, but I just want to see more, because we've all seen him at Brighton and we know how good he can be. So please be that good for us, man. But yeah, we'll move on to Reece James, who we did forget about. My apologies. I love him so much. I was terrified when he came off. I'm happy that he came off, especially because it's not like we threw the game away after. I'm happy that he came off because I'm happy that we're not overdoing it with him again, and hopefully be able to start him regularly at the moment if he just plays an hour to 70 minutes most games, and then Gusto comes on, who is still like a respectable replacement, even if in front of goal. Obviously, that moment for Gusto, Reece James definitely scores that. But Reece is just phenomenal. Yeah, there was 1 or 2 moments where he could have maybe defended Doku a little bit better, but overall he had him on absolute toast. The way he just runs through people. He got the assist, as much as it was very, lucky because, Guardiola had an absolute brain fart moment. It's still, when you look at Reece James, the passing, the dribbling, the duels, the tackles, 3 out of 5 tackles, 3 out of 4 long balls, 6 out of 8 duels. Like, actually, so I tell a lie, it's not better ground duels than he has better ground duels than Cucurella. Cucurella doesn't have better ground duels than Reece James. So fair play. But yeah, Reece, for me, with the assist, gets an 8 today. Obviously a shame that he can't do full 90s yet, or that he isn't. But outside of that, I think there's very, very little to criticize. And yeah, I love him, and I think it's phenomenal. Jamie, thoughts? Reece James, would you give him an 8? Would you give him a little bit less? What would you say?
I want to go higher, to be fair, like 8.5. Like, this guy is, as you said, he's unreal. Like, so many times we rely on him to kind of beat the press, and he's just so composed on the ball. He'll like, so many times he just got to the ball when we've like overhit a pass or something, or it wasn't the perfect pass for him, but he would just get to it and play a 1-2 with Palmer, and we just completely slice through their midfield and defense. Like, we rely on this guy so much, which is pretty crazy for a right back, but it just shows like how composed he is. He could honestly like play anywhere on the pitch, and I think he'd still be our best player. That's how good he is on the ball. So yeah, I think I'll give him an 8.5. Like, there was quite a few times where Doku like couldn't get past him at all as well. Like, I think he maybe got a bit of space on him like once or twice max, but like, I don't think any other right backs defended Doku better this season. Not that I can remember. So yeah, I'll give him an 8.5.
Fair play. I might even consider doing it myself, but let's see what Aaron says. Aaron, Reece James, 8.5. What are you considering?
There's just not enough words to describe how good this man is, honestly. It's just such a shame that he can't stay fit all of the time. Otherwise, he'd have a serious player on our hands. We do, but just not often enough or as much as we'd like. But yeah, again, another great performance from Reece James. Doku in his pocket majority of the game while he was on the pitch. Didn't get much joy out of him at all. Obviously involved in the incident for the 3rd goal, was it?
Yeah.
Was it? Yeah. So involved in the incident for the 3rd goal. Obviously should be doing better there in terms of clearing the ball out and just getting rid of it, and then not putting us in that situation. But
no, that was the penalty. What you're talking about now?
Oh, yeah. Sorry, that's the one I was talking about. Yeah. So aside from that, I mean, yeah, there's not much to say other than he had a really good game, and hopefully he can build up more match fitness to the point where he can then get through full 90s. Because right now he's playing about an hour and then coming off. So it'd be good to have him playing full 90s. But I'd probably go for an 8.5 as well, actually.
Fair dues. Have the 8.5, Mr. Reece James. Have it. Enzo Fernandez then. Well, on the ball, better than Caicedo. Off the ball, kind of equally as not great. I mean, the ground duels percentage is way better than Caicedo. Caicedo at 25%. Enzo has 57. 4 out of 7 ground duels. Not bad, really. Tackles 1 out of 1 as well. It's not too bad. It's interestingly only attempted 2 long balls today, which find something very odd considering he was literally a long ball merchant last season when he joined, and he kind of does that less and less now, which is very interesting because I'm like, when people make runs, as much as we don't really play for those runs because, well, Jackson makes bad runs and Sterling chooses not to make runs, and when Mudryk plays, he plays too deep to make those runs, so who are you playing long balls to anyway? And Palmer doesn't really have the pace. I'd probably give him a 5 because I thought he was better than Caicedo by quite a bit. But I still don't think he did enough to get an average rating to me, because when our attackers, I was pretty happy with all of them bar Jackson. Well, if you include Gallagher in that anyway. I was pretty happy with kind of all of our defenders, aside from moments for Thiago Silva, but he still scored. The main issue for me today, the main reason why we conceded goals, why we conceded chances, was when the midfield messed up. was when Caicedo lost challenges, when Enzo pushed up when he shouldn't have pushed up and left gaps. That was my main issue from the whole game today. When we struggled, it was kind of those two. Now, obviously, that's because Man City focus heavily on being in midfield, winning the midfield duel and everything else. I'm very aware of that. So I'm not saying they're now bad and they're a bad partnership, but today it didn't work. Maybe I could say 5.5, maybe even a push at a 6 for Enzo. But I feel like if I give Caicedo a 3, I can't give Enzo a 6. So I'm saying 5. We'll see what the boys say. Aaron, I think you go first. What did you think of Enzo and what rank would you give him?
Again, not impressed. As I said earlier, Gallagher outperforming both him and Caicedo, and they're meant to be the big money signings that we have in our midfield to transform it. Everyone said, oh, once Caicedo comes, that's the perfect partner for Enzo, blah, blah, blah. When they play together, very rarely do they look like they're doing well. So, I mean, it's a bit of a concern. He does need to really step up his performances because when you saw him last year, all we could do was heap praise on him and say how good he was. So we also need to be able to sit here and discuss when he's not performing well at all. And I don't think this season he's been up to the levels at all. It feels like sometimes it's an uncomfortable conversation to have with Enzo Fernandez because of how he performed last season. Took like a duck to water, even though the team was shit. He was really good in the role that he was doing. But yeah, today he wasn't great for me. Obviously, I think Caicedo was worse than him, but I don't think Enzo was all that much better. So I'd probably just go with the 5 as well because I gave Caicedo 4.
Fair dues. I'll go to Jamie with it, but I do want to read out this message by Supreme in the chat. He says, I felt Enzo actually had a good start to the game, but after 20 to 30 minutes, he was very annoying to watch. Second half, he did nothing, and Poch was right or correct to sub him off. Yeah, to be honest, I kind of think similar, and maybe I would extend it to the 30 rather than a 20 minutes. I'm not sure if I'd use the word annoying, but he just started to not be as good, I guess. But yeah, I honestly in the second half, I can't remember anything from Enzo. So therefore, in a way, you can say Pochettino was correct to sub him off. Jamie, 2 5s for Enzo. What do you think? A lot of people in the chat seem to be very like, oh, we need to have a conversation about Enzo and this. And I'm like, don't you think you guys are jumping the gun a little bit too soon here? Because like, he's not had a stable player next to him in midfield yet. He's been here for 9 months, 10 months. He's not had a stable player next to him. Most of the period of the second half of last season, he was the only acceptable player that we had, literally. And now he's not that great. And people are making it sound like he's poor. And I just feel like that because of how expensive he is, and because of how good he was last season, I feel like now we make average Enzo performances, everyone says he's awful. And when he actually plays well, people say, oh, it's just average. I don't know if that's the price tag, if that's the hype, maybe the stigma around him because won the World Cup, super player, young player of the tournament and everything else. I don't know. That's how I feel anyway. Maybe the other people are right and I'm wrong. Could very well be. But I feel like, yes, he's not been good, but I feel like people are taking it a bit too far with how poor or good or whatever he may be. But where do you stand on this, Jamie? And what rating would you give him?
I think, 5's probably about right. Yeah, I agree with that comment. Like, first 20 minutes, he was really keeping us ticking. He was involved in a lot of our movement and play. And I honestly can't remember a game against City since probably the Champions League final that we've started so well in possession and in the press. Like, I don't think I've ever seen us press City the way we did today.
I agree.
I know a lot of the game, when they kind of got on the ball, we had to sit back. That does happen against City, probably for every team. But for a lot of moments, we were very aggressive with the press, which I've been calling out for Poch to kind of help us with. And I saw that today in a lot of moments, which was good. And I think maybe the problem between Enzo and Caicedo, like, they seem like a dream kind of match on paper, but like
only if Caicedo is good defensively. If he's not, then it's a really bad.
But like the more I watch them, like they're both very, very aggressive in the press. Like Enzo is not super amazing defensively, but he's very good at pressing. He's quite aggressive, and that's why he wins a lot of duels and has a lot of ball recoveries high up the pitch. And you'll probably see that in the stats. But Caicedo, like, he is equally as aggressive in the press, and he likes to win it high up. whereas you can't really have both of them do that. And I think that kind of
We're back to having the Kante problem, isn't it?
Exactly. We still don't have that.
We literally had a problem with Kante for 7 years. He was the best player in the world, but there was one problem with him. We replaced him with a player that has the same problem. It's just nowhere near as good at tackling as Kante. It's brilliant.
Exactly. Well, I think Caicedo will get there in terms of tackling.
Yeah, but not Kante levels. Let's not put too much pressure.
Maybe, maybe not like that. But like I've seen enough of Caicedo that I'm confident in bringing that kind of game aspect of the game back in. But them as a pairing can be a bit dangerous because, yeah, as I said, they're both very aggressive. Maybe that's when Lavia, who's much more comfortable sitting a little bit deeper, comes into play. He's less aggressive in his press. I think maybe that could fit a bit better, but then who do you drop?
Hey, I was questioning where is Lavia even going to play? But the more I'm seeing of Caicedo and Enzo as a combination, the more I'm like, maybe Lavia is exactly what we need. So
yeah, maybe. If Caicedo continues like this, then he's going to have some serious competition, that's for sure, because Enzo is definitely the one we need a little bit more, especially against weaker teams to kind of keep our progressive play going. And he's still very creative coming from that deep role. So Caicedo's, honestly gonna have to look over his shoulder a bit when Lavia's back, I think. But yeah, rating 5.
You said 5, I think, actually.
Yeah, I think that's fine.
Fair dues. Very nice. Now we get to Conor Gallagher. And Jamie, I think you might be quite unhappy with me because I'm gonna go very, very far. Like, if you imagine a gas pedal or an accelerator in a car, I'm going to press it all the way to the floor with my praise for Conor Gallagher right now because he was the most accurate passer on the pitch of players that played more than 45 minutes. 95%, 38 out of 40 passes he completed. That is unbelievable. Now, we continue some more stats. Okay, successful dribbles, fine. 1 out of 1. Accurate crosses, 1 out of 1. Nice. Accurate long balls, 3 out of 4. Tackles, 2 out of 3. Ground duels, okay, that one is less impressive, but he's in an attacking position, so that explains it a bit. But still, as an attacker, to have 6 out of 12 is actually still good. Mate, I don't know what's happened to Conor Gallagher and who this is. I don't know if if Todd Bowley came out with the maddest Elon Musk science or whatever and somehow turned Conor Gallagher into N'Golo Kante in the other body or whatever's happened. But I don't know how he does it. The tackles are unbelievable. He doesn't give the ball away. He got an assist. He played great corners today. Got an assist from there. Essentially got the assist for Nicholas Jackson with that really good effort that, okay, Edison should do a bit better with, but still, it's a good enough effort to force Edison into that save. Brings us our third goal. Mate, he's unbelievable. I'm going to give Conor Gallagher... I'm seriously tempted to say 9, you know. I said 8 for James and not 8.5, so I'm going to say 8.5 for Gallagher and not quite give him the 9 because that feels a bit too crazy. But maybe Aaron pushes in the same direction as me and also says 9, then I might change my mind. I'm going to say 8.5 for now. But my God, he's so good right now. Before every game, I'm like, oh, if only Gallagher wasn't this good right now, then I could play Palmer as the 10, Sterling on the right, Mudryk on the left, because I kind of want Mudryk to play more, but you also can't really drop Sterling for the most part. So how do I do that? But the way Gallagher plays, unless you're going to put him in the pivot, like Ousty in the chat keeps saying, in terms of just play Gallagher and Caicedo, I'm not sure that would be any better, but sure. He's keeping serious players out of the team right now in a position where I arguably don't even want him to be in. But against these types of opponents, there is zero chance Gallagher does not play and should not play. He's been unbelievable, to be honest. He's been absolutely unbelievable. Jamie, because you're usually the most critical of Gallagher, I'll let Aaron go first and see where we end up with before we let you go. But maybe you're going to be completely different today. Who knows? We'll see. Aaron, though, 8.5. Are you potentially even going to go for the 9? Thoughts on Conor Gallagher? Again, got the assist for Thiago Silva, essentially got the assist for Jackson. He's been unbelievable.
I don't know who this man is, but he's possessed because this is definitely not the same Conor Gallagher that we had last season. I think we're going to have to look to retire the Gallagher Greyhound name now because the way he's performing at the moment, we can't be slandering him. One thing we've always said about Conor Gallagher is even last season, no matter how shit he was, he always gave 100% and he left it all out on the pitch and he would run until he left that pitch. his cardio is crazy. Like he can
Yeah.
run for absolutely ages. I don't understand it. It's
I
mental, but
refuse to believe that he even has lungs.
yeah, God knows. Honestly, I wouldn't even be able to explain it to you. 2 minutes in, and I'm knackered. So fair play to him. But fair play to him, man. But yeah, no, literally this whole season, he's completely turned his game around, and you have to give a lot of credit to him and Pochettino for being able to do that, because to go from the level of performance that he was given last season to then seeing what he's able to do now, he's really stepping up his game. And today was another example of that. He really imposed himself in that midfield. And when you look on paper and see what City have in their team with the way he's playing, you'd think that he was like one of the best midfielders in the world with like how he's performing on the pitch. You have Rodri there, you have Bernardo Silva, but the main man in both midfields was Conor Gallagher, and that's testament to how he's performing this season. So I definitely will be going for the 9 on that.
You know what? You've convinced me. I'm going for it as well. That was easy. But yeah, there you go. Fantastic. Big up Conor Gallagher. Jamie, are you going to eat your words? Are you going to stand by being quite critical of Gallagher? Or are you simply going to say you still have your issues with him, but today he was really good?
Nah, man, I might have to eat my words on this guy. Like he was crazy today. I thought he would, honestly, I thought he was gonna struggle today, and that's kind of because I thought, just in terms of press resistance, City, I thought they would be a lot more aggressive in their press. And I know he struggles when he has his back to goal and tight spaces. But today, like, even in tight spaces, one-touch play, great first touch most of the time. Knew what he was going to do before he got the ball. Like, a lot of the things I've been complaining about him doing, he was just, like, completely different today. He was so neat and composed, something I don't really see much of him. So yeah, I'm super impressed. Like I've never, obviously his off the ball stuff, like I'm never complaining about. Like he is by far our best player in terms of work rate, aggressiveness, pressing. So all of that stuff is great. It's just on the ball, kind of, I thought he disrupted our play a lot of the times because he doesn't, like, I still would say against like the weaker teams, the Brentford, when we've seen him play against them, like I don't really see the need for him on the pitch. When we saw in the second half when Parma moved into 10, like how much more influence we had. It was a great move by Poch, kind of swapping them around, I think.
Well, didn't Gallagher drop deeper because he took Enzo off then?
That was later on, but at the start of the second half, he put Palmer on the right, Palmer in the 10, and Gallagher was on the right. I think maybe.
Really? I didn't see things go past me. My bad. Well, there you go.
I think maybe partly to kind of cover Doku a little bit more, Gallagher, but also because I think Palmer, once he moved into that central position, he had so much influence on the play. Like that run he made through the middle, I was. Where he kind of skinned 3 men and went through on goal. Like I was begging for that to be a goal, but like you will not get that kind of stuff from Gallagher. Like let's be honest. But today, like on the ball, super impressive. Can't say anything. Probably up there with the best performers today. But yeah, I will still say against the weaker opposition, I would prefer Palmer just centrally, and maybe put Gallagher ahead of Caicedo in terms of performance in the pivot. That's probably fair in terms of performance. But yeah, he was.
What rating would you give Gallagher today? Would you go along with our 9, or would you go a little bit lower?
I'd say he was even with Reece James in terms of performance for me. So I'd say like 8.5, but 9's probably fair as well. To be honest, he was he was sick.
There you go. Fair play. And it takes a big man to say, well, hold my hands up. But at the end of the day, right, Jamie, this is what we want. Like, we sometimes criticize Chelsea players, but we're Chelsea fans. What we, in an ideal world, want, we say, okay, you're not good at these things. And then these players go and all of a sudden become good at these things. That's kind of the dream scenario for a fan, right? Especially for someone that comes from the academy and we're like, he's probably the one that doesn't quite have it and everything else. And he's turning into like what Mason Mount wished he could be. That's what Gallagher is doing right now. It's mental.
It's just bias from last year. Like, I could not believe how many games and minutes he got, considering how atrocious he was, especially on the ball. Like, the amount of ball giveaways and dodgy touches and slipping over, and like how many times I've seen him like just run around and do nothing else. But this season, yeah, he's completely... I don't know what was wrong with him last year, but like I don't understand how a player can just technically improve that much
Yeah, it's crazy, isn't it? Like,
in that short period of time. But yeah,
it's unbelievable. Maybe it's just a sign that players improve by far the most when they get game time. Who would have thought? But
yeah.
that's almost what it feels like, because he's just got to play so much last season despite being poor that he kind of managed to almost play himself through being bad and all of a sudden turn good. It's meant to.
Maybe.
Yeah, exactly. We move on. We get to Cole Palmer. Before we say anything about how good he was going forward, I want to give, even though what you mentioned a minute ago, Jamie, in terms of they switch to potentially help a bit more with Doku, could well be. But I think I also still need to say that Palmer also put in a proper shift defensively against Doku as well. Now, he could have closed Bernardo Silva down sooner for that corner that we conceded from. Sure, fair enough. But outside of that, he's so good. I love him so much. And that penalty, man, he nearly went top corner. You know the pressure on that penalty against your boyhood club, against God knows how many penalties in training Palmer would have taken against Ederson. Do you know what I mean? Dozens, hundreds probably. And to have the balls to like just put it top corner and injury time at 4-3 down. It's mental. And if he scored what you're talking about, that dribble going past three men and then one of them over the keep, he wasn't even a bad effort. It's actually a phenomenal save from Ederson, because Ederson realized that Palmer was going to try to poke it in the near post, and Ederson already dived for that before Palmer even shot, which is kind of mental because it can backfire completely, because if Palmer goes the other side, Ederson looks like an idiot. But he didn't. Made a great save, which is a shame. But Palmer, there were still moments where he could do a bit better, for sure, which is, well, I'm not quite going to go as high as with Gallagher and maybe James, but I'm going to give him an 8 anyway. I'm going to give him an 8. That's what I'm going to give him. Maybe you guys are going to go higher. I don't know. We'll see. But he's just wonderful. 78% pass completion, which in his position is obviously great. Successful dribbles, 1 out of 2. Crosses, 0 out of 2. Could improve on that, sure, but still 2 out of 2 long balls, 1 other 1 tackles, 3 out of 6 duels. A good performance, nerves of absolute steel. I love him. Jamie, on Palmer. Let's try to keep it a bit shorter, because otherwise we'll be here for 3 hours. That also goes for myself, by the way, not just you. But yeah, on Palmer, 8. Is that somewhere you'd go? Would you go for some different thoughts on the penalty, the nerves? Let me know.
I'd say 9.5, to be honest. Like he was my best player on the pitch by a mile.
Maybe I'm off the mark, but you go on first. I'll change my mind potentially.
He was involved in pretty much every play. Like in the first half, especially, every bit of composure and attack we had came down that right hand side, and Reece James and Palmer kind of linking up. Got a few like pre-assists for, I think, like James, who got his assist. And yeah, just to take that penalty in the end against your boyhood club, like that composure is crazy. But yeah, especially when he moved into the 10, as I said before, in the second half, like we just constantly look to this guy. And I just want to say, like, people always criticize like the board for their strategy in terms of like signing inexperienced, like younger players, but with this kid, it's just like, it shows one player. It just takes one of these like signings in these youth players, and if he was playing like this for City, I think there's no way you get him for even double the price we paid for him right now. So like, that's the kind of beauty in the strategy. You get one of these things right, and you have like one crazy young player with his whole career ahead of him as well. So for me, best player on the pitch by quite some distance. So I'll go.
So would you have gone 9 had Gallagher not got a 9, or would you have gone 9.5 regardless?
I think I would have gone 9.5. Yeah, the penalty at the end just kind of pushes up a little bit. His performance on the whole for me was like a 9, and then to kind of get that point at the end, it just pushes it. 9.5, I think, is good. Fair
dues. I put a 9.5 down for now. Let's see what Aaron says, and then I potentially reevaluate what I said, because you made a lot of good points. Aaron, then, would you go quite as high as Jamie did? Higher than Gallagher even? Or do you think Gallagher was the best player? Where would you go for Cole Palmer today? And obviously we're all praising him because he's phenomenal, but how high? Did you say 10?
10.
Fair enough then.
This kid is the bollocks. He is ridiculous. I remember when he signed and we had this debate, and at the time I said Brennan Johnson to Spurs was a better signing than Cole Palmer to Chelsea.
Hey,
And
what
at the
is up with
time,
us today and holding our hands up? It's mental. Fair play.
at the time, I had merit because I had the bigger sample size to go off. But having had the almost first half of the season, I would like to retract my statement and say I was probably wrong. This kid is ridiculously good. And to pick him up for what 40 something, 42.5 million or something, it seems like a bargain. We should go back to City and give them another 20 million because this
mate,
kid
we
is
can send them Caicedo, to be honest.
Mate, if they want to send Rodri the other way, I'll take it. But anyways, he is ridiculous. Honestly, he's taken like a duck to water at Chelsea, and a lot of people thought, or me included, by Cole Palmer of all kind of winger type signings you can make when we were linked to Kudus, and you have like players like Doku up there as well, and you think, wow, you could have gone for someone like that, and you went for Cole Palmer. But yeah, this kid, honestly, he's special. He's a special player. He's just very confident. He likes to drive with the ball. The way he's able to just turn and go towards the goal is really good. That one solo run where he picked up the ball, just turned, ran through. I really wanted that to go in. That would have been such an amazing goal. But to cap it all off and get to the 93rd minute or wherever it was against your old team with your club 4-3 down, and you've put the ball on the spot after about 4 minutes or 5 minutes of tomfoolery going on with scrappage and all these big huddles and all that shit, to put the ball down and put it in top bins against a goalkeeper who you've played with at your previous club, so probably knows which position you prefer to go when you take a penalty. To put it away like that and then give that celebration as well, yeah, he's got big bollocks, big steel bollocks. He's got, because I would have struggled to do that. There's so many players on our team who I would not trust to be able to do that. But yeah, he's starting to prove that he is one.
Remember a few weeks ago when Sterling tried to take the ball off Palmer for the penalty? That ain't happening anymore, that's for sure.
Yeah, I think he cemented his place as our penalty taker, which is a good thing because he seems to be really good at them. And 4 goals, obviously all 4 from the spot, but he just looks like he's continuing to grow in confidence, and hopefully that can translate into more GA on the pitch outside of penalties. But yeah, man, the kid is special.
Fair dues. Now, I'm gonna reevaluate, or I have, from my 8. I will give a 9. I don't know. Maybe I was just being negative. I go to a 9, which overall leaves us at a 9.5 because I do think a 10 is maybe a bit far. But hey, a 9.5 seems to be where we meet in the middle. Because the one thing I'll say in terms of attacking play, the player that stood out for me the most today was actually Raheem Sterling, not Palmer. I'm not saying I'm going to give him a higher rating. It's certainly not higher than 9.5. But to me, Sterling was an absolute smoke today. Like I said yesterday in the preview, we were sat here, I'm like, is Sterling really going to get the better of Walker? Walker knows him so well. Obviously, Pi said, but Sterling also knows Walker. And I was like, yeah, but defending is kind of easier in that sense because you're like, you need to just stop him from going somewhere rather than make sure you go past someone in a way, which is easier in that logic in my mind anyway. But the way he rinsed him today, the way he tactically got into positions, got himself a goal as well. Could have had another, that curler, if that goes in, outrageous. I still wish Jackson didn't take the ball off him after that outrageous solo where he started with a nutmeg on Doku, runs past 4 players, gets to the edge of the box. If he continues, I'm not sure if he scores because the angle wouldn't have been great, but I just wish Jackson let him have it anyway, just for the chance that he does it himself. Outrageous, in my opinion, today. Raheem Sterling was outrageous. I mean, the pass completion was dreadful. 15 out of 25. One of the worst, or the worst we've looked at of our old players today. Successful dribbles, the stats don't even look great. 3 out of 9. Accurate crosses, 0 out of 3. The stats are really not good. The tackles, 0 out of 3. Ground duels, 9 out of 20. Okay, that's nearly 50%, which is what the other guys had as well. Maybe there was defensive moments where I don't think he tracked back enough, or, maybe sometimes the press, he's not quite as good as Palmer and Gallagher are on that. But in terms of when he got the ball doing something and getting me off my seat, he was outrageous today for me. He was outrageous today. You know what? I'm just going to give the whole front 3 behind the striker a 9. I'm going to give Sterling a 9 as well. Aaron, what would you give Sterling? There's a fair few people that won, 9.5s I'm seeing. Someone said Sterling was man of the match easily. Raheem terrorized Walker. I agree with all of those things. If we win the game, Raz is a 10. Ritz says, I think you need to do more than 1 goal to get a 10. I think anything other than, if you're a deep line midfielder, then 2 goals is enough for a 10 maybe. But otherwise, you need a hat-trick to get a 10 for me. But yeah, I still think he was absolutely outrageous, and I'm going to say 9. I think he was fantastic. Aaron, what did you make of Sterling?
10.
10 as well. You're
Just
just giving out 2
10.
10s, fair play.
Mate, this guy, honestly, today he was a man possessed. The way he terrorized Kyle Walker, and Kyle Walker is no joke. He's one of the best right backs in the world behind Reece James, obviously. But the way he absolutely terrorized Kyle Walker, I didn't think Raheem Sterling was going to have much joy today because Kyle Walker is just an absolute demon. And it is so hard trying to attack against him because he's so quick to turn. Obviously, sprint-wise, he's ridiculously fast as well. But Raheem Sterling, honestly, just made him look average. He looked like Trent. He looked normal. So the way that he was able to cut inside that solo run, if he was just able to get the shot off and Jackson didn't take it and he finished that would have been ridiculous. We could have had a Sterling and Palmer. We could have had Sterling and Palmer both with incredible solo runs against their old clubs. That would have been poetry. But yeah, honestly, today, just little things as well, like the tracking back, getting stuck in, trying to win the ball back. And then the only thing I didn't like at the end was a little bit of like sulky, a little bit, but the shithousery to then come back and absolutely clean Phil Foden out was hilarious. That was hilarious. But yeah, just his attacking wise, I think he's really starting to grow into his role now, and he's had that season last season where he was poor, and we know we need more from him, but he's really starting to live up to the expectation. And yeah, if he was kind of playing like he felt like he had a point to prove. He's playing against his old club. He just got rid of him that easily.
He felt like he was extra poor against City. I don't know about you guys, but I thought that anyway.
Last season he probably thought he was still playing for them, but this season he's completely different, and he showed them. He set levels. He showed them that he was probably him and Palmer were the 2 best wingers on a pitch. Their boys didn't look like they had anything in them. So yeah, Raheem Sterling was quality.
Fair dues. Jamie, I'll get to you. A 9 from me, a 10 from Aaron. Are you going to go in the middle with a 9.5 again? Or what did you make of Raheem Sterling today, bro?
Yeah, I'll go 9, to be honest. Just a bit less influential than Palmer, or a little bit less composed for me. He was crazy. I haven't seen a winger kind of cook Walker down the outside for a kind of pace that many times in the game before. Like, I can't really remember that. And I think he had about 3 or 4 nutmegs. Like, I don't know where this kind of confidence has come from. Maybe the Tottenham game, but like all our forwards just looked so confident. They trusted their abilities today. Only thing with him, which is the one thing that annoys me, is like his decision making. He'll beat 2 players and then has to release it. Like, he does something really good. You beat 2 players, then you have to release it. Or a lot of the time he picks the wrong through ball, or like underhits through the through ball after doing a really good run. Like, it's just that final bit that he needs to add to his game a little bit to just get that 9.5 kind of 10 scores. But yeah, that's probably one of his best performances since. I think last time we were talking about we need him to get those back post goals as well that we haven't seen in a while. But I think Reece James like coming in and Sterling getting that back post goal from him is exactly what we were talking about. So good to see that today as well.
Wonderful. Yeah, absolutely. Now, because we have 2 9s but 1 10, we still sit at a 9.5 because that's how maths work. So 2 9.5s on the pitch today, and we get to Nicholas Jackson. Yeah, a little bit less praise as we have for these other 2. Got his goal, not a special goal, but got his goal, which is good. He's now on 6 goals in 11 games, which really, in the grand scheme of things, of strikers we've had in the past, not that bad. In only his 3rd season, his 3rd season of senior football. Can't complain about that too much. But was he good outside of the goal? No. Pass completion, 50%, 6 out of 12. It's poor. Dribbles, 1 out of 3. It's not great. Although it's a better percentage than Sterling. Well, actually, the same percentage as Sterling. Tackles, none. Ground duels, 1 out of 4. Aerial duels, okay, 1 out of 1. But that feels like it's very wrong. Because the amount of times he received long balls from the defenders or Sanchez, and he tried to control it, but it bounced off so far off him that it just landed with another City player. That happens so many times, or he was shoved out the way. I think because of his goal, he gets a 6, but outside of the goal, he wouldn't have got a 6. That's what I'm saying. Maybe you could say 6.5, 7 if you need to, if you want to, but that's what I'll say anyway. Jamie, if you are back, then I'll go with you first. Jackson 6, is that valid for you with the goal, but with being quite poor around it? I mean, Jesus says pass completion for a striker. That is a valid point, but you have to look at it for everyone a little bit. Obviously, it values less for a striker than it does for a centre mid, but it still has a little bit of relevance, in my opinion, anyway. But thoughts? I mean, JP seems to be fuming. Keish Vektov said, is that a banter name that I can't get? Anyway, Jackson 2, that's a bit harsh. My guy scored still. Jamie, you say what you think.
Yeah, I think because of the goal, maybe that's fair. Like, I'm glad that he got that in the end, because I think he would have got quite a bit more of a poor score. Like, he started
if
the
we
game
lost that and he didn't score, he would have been slayed today.
Exactly. He started the game quite crisp, like some very nice link-up plays. I think in general, we started the game really strongly, and he looked quite good in the opening, like 20 minutes in his link-up, but then he just kind of disappeared, wasn't involved. The brief moments where he could have held the ball up, he was just a little bit weak. Or we didn't see much of the kind of counter-attacking runs that I thought he'd maybe be a little bit better against City, against these top teams. I thought we'd see a lot more of that, but we really didn't. Because I think that's probably his best attribute. When he kind of gets the ball on the counter and he has space to run, he's quite good, and then he normally picks the right pass as well. But we didn't see much of that at all. So yeah, a little bit underwhelming considering the rest of our attack and how good they were. So yeah, like 5.5, 6, I think that's about fair.
Fair dues. Very nice. Aaron, then, are you going to agree with around that realm of rating as well, or are you going to go for something different? Because, like I say, I've seen 2, I've seen 7, I've seen 5, I've seen 6.5, I've seen all sorts of things in the chat. So where do you sit on it, Aaron?
I'd probably go for a 5, and that's with the goal included, because I think outside of the goal, he really didn't do much at all. I think
No, he didn't.
There's points with Jackson where you just think you saw a player in pre-season who was just scoring goals for fun, and you compare it to what you're seeing now, and it's kind of like, where has that gone? Like, he looks more sluggish now. He doesn't look like he's as alert. He's not making those same types of runs. He hasn't got the same
also
intensity.
Looked slower than he did in preseason. I don't know how that's.
Yeah, in preseason he looked rapid, but now he's not looking particularly that quick either. So there's a lot of things where you look back at preseason to now and you think
maybe we just played super slow defenders in preseason. Maybe that's it.
I don't know. Maybe the whole speed of the game is different in preseason as well. Yeah. But beside the point, he had to start after scoring a hat trick. You couldn't not start, and I think actually playing with him and forcing Palmer out slightly more to the right side, drifting central and stuff, actually helped us more than having Palmer as a false 9. So I think in the sense for the whole team, it was better that he actually started. But yeah, he didn't offer all too much. He got his goal, which is good, albeit it was just a tap in from a Conor Gallagher shot. But yeah, he aside from the goal, he really didn't offer much at all. So he needs to up his game, even though he's doing well in terms of scoring goals. He's on 6 now, which is good, but all-round performance really needs to improve.
It does. That is absolutely valid, I think. Let's get to the subs. Obviously, Gusto came on for Reece James after 64 minutes, as well as Mudryk coming on for Enzo, and then Gallagher pushing into the middle. Sterling on the right, Mudryk on the left. Palmer was then the number 10. And then we made 2 subs very, very late on with Cucurella and Broja coming on for, what was it, for Sterling? Did Sterling come off? I don't know, for Caicedo and Jackson, that was it. Broja came off for Jackson and Caicedo was replaced by Cucurella. Even though I thought Cucurella was after the 4-4 and Broja was clearly before because he won the penalty. But anyway, whatever it may be. Really, I don't know about Mudryk, but Gusto obviously deserves and needs a rating. We touch on Broja. Obviously, there's not really much to talk about Cucurella. I'll keep it short, though. Gusto should have scored, but defensively, I was happy with him. So as a sub, I'm going to give him... I don't think he did anything wrong, really. So I'm going to give him a 7. As a sub with a star. So like it's not quite the same. But as a sub, I'll say that. Aaron, would you go along with that? Or would you go lower, maybe higher?
No, I'd go along the same lines. Obviously, he should have scored the chance that he had. But yeah, outside of that, he was all right.
Fair dues. Jamie, for you as well? Or would you go to them different?
Yeah, that's fair. He was quite slick when he came on. I thought, like, with his one-touch play, there was a lot of nice combinations. We didn't really miss Reece, I thought, even though Reece was amazing. But like we didn't notice it, which probably is testament to how he played. He looked pretty good, and obviously should have scored. But yeah, fair.
Mudryk, honestly, other than kind of being involved in the third goal in the sense of that he made for a run, he dragged 3 City players to him, that opened the space for in the middle for Gallagher to shoot and then Jackson to get the tap in. Other than that, he didn't really do anything. I'll be perfectly honest. He had 2 passes, completed both of them, mind you, but still 2 passes. 0 out of 2 dribbles. Not sure how that's again. Why? I saw him dribble, pass the ball after. How is it not a successful dribble? I don't understand. How far do you need to run with the ball for it to count as a dribble? I don't know. But yeah, I'll probably just give him a 6. I don't think he was bad, but I don't think he did enough to get any more. Jamie, do you think that's fair, or do you think he deserves below average?
Yeah, he had a really impactful start with that run and then the layoff. So yeah. I thought he was kind of going to be on it and a lot more influential, but he played a fair few amount of the minutes, but really didn't see much of the ball after that. So
yeah, he only had 8 touches.
Yeah, it was weird. Nothing was coming down that side. I don't really understand why, but maybe he's hiding a little bit. I know I watched him play against Walker before for Ukraine, and he looked so scared to play against him. Didn't want the ball anywhere near him. Maybe that's kind of playing on his mind. So yeah, I guess
I just always feel like Mudryk is always like this when he comes off the bench, and when you start him, he's a bit different. He seems more confident when he gets to start compared to when he comes off the bench.
Yeah, I'd agree with
that. Aaron, you going along with a 6 for Mudryk, or do you think he deserves anything different?
No, he had a bright initial part when he came on, and obviously he had that chest down and laid it off, then we scored from it. But yeah, aside from that, I didn't really notice he was on the pitch. We didn't really get him on the ball that much. So yeah, just go with the 6.
There you go. Ugachukwu, of course, gets an NA. I just quickly want to talk about Broja. Obviously, he wasn't on the pitch for long enough to get a rating either. I'll give him a clap emoji because I thought he did outrageously well to win that penalty. The little shimmy to kind of tuck it inside one more time for Ruben Dias, who came flying in to completely miss the ball and just take him out. It's outrageous. The awareness around you in the box. How many strikers do you see? Think back to your Moratas, even your Torres when he was struggling at Chelsea. These strikers, they're then so focused on the ball, on trying to score somehow, that they don't know what's going on around them. And then obviously nothing works because they get tackled or their shot gets blocked or they don't see that the goalie moved or whatever. And in that situation, bro, it's that little shimmy, that penalty, that was worth gold. Absolute gold. Because imagine, we play obviously the same game, but don't get that penalty, lose 4-3. We're all devastated. We're all not fuming at the players necessarily, would be a bit more critical of a few in terms of the goals we conceded, but not in general. But that winning that penalty and that goal in the end, which obviously wasn't him, changed everything. The outlook, the vibe in the team and the stadium, everywhere. So huge. And I personally think if he's fit to do so, because obviously he's had a big ACL injury and now a few injury problems on the other knee as well. If he's fit, I think we should consider starting him next game against Newcastle. It will be interesting if Broja goes on international duty or not. And obviously, Broja started away at Newcastle last season, one of those Potter games, just before the World Cup, which didn't go that well, I guess. But yeah, because he's not much slower than Jackson, if at all. They were talking about last season before Mudryk came, that he was the fastest player in the squad last season. Now, obviously, that was also before Jackson, but it's certainly not a lot in it. Maybe Jackson's a bit quicker in acceleration, but I think top speed, I think Broja might be up there after Mudryk, honestly. Maybe Sterling, I guess. But they were saying Broja is the fastest with Sterling here, so what do I know? But because he's also strong and he just looks like he can shoot better than Jackson can in terms of the technique of how likely he is to hit a ball cleanly when attempting to shoot. But yeah, Jamie, if you want to say something about the penalty itself, and I don't know anything else you want to say about Broja, if there is anything even.
No, it was. I thought he kind of should have, after taking it down, had a shot. I thought maybe he messed it up, but it was completely the right thing to do, to kind of wait. And he's quite good at that, being composed when to take an extra touch or when to kind of hit it first time. He definitely just has much more of a presence in the box than Jackson does, and you can see that.
Now he's coming out with the full beard as well. Big fan. You know, looks dangerous.
He looks bigger as well, like a lot stronger than he did last year
Last season,
before
at
his
least,
injury.
yeah.
So he's definitely been doing a lot more weights and stuff, and you can tell. And yeah, I think it's good to have him. Hopefully he stays fit as another option, because against games like Brentford, we really struggled with that presence in the box, and it would have been great to have someone like him come on instead of Jackson. So yeah.
Exactly. From your end, Aaron, much anything different to say? Probably similar things.
Yeah, no, he done very well with the body feint to win the penalty. That's kind of what you want. He didn't come on with much time left, but he managed to make an impact in the penalty. So yeah, he done his job today. So big well done to him, and hopefully he can start to build up some fitness and get more minutes under his belt to then eventually be ready to start.
There you go. And actually, you are right. Who said that? He said, "Dude, Jackson was on with Broja." It's true, actually. It was Ugo Chukwu came on for Jackson after the penalty, while Broja came on for Caicedo just before. So yeah, they were on both at the same time. You are right. But imagine if I put Broja now with Caicedo here, it's confusing that. So I'm gonna leave it at that. But thank you for pointing that out. But yeah, that's the ratings done. I'm very happy, except for one. Except for one, I'm unhappy, except for one that we haven't done yet. And that is, of course, the manager himself, Mr. Pochettino, the last one we're going to do today before we round this one out. Well, to be honest, I'm going to be very full of praise in the grand scheme of things, really. I thought the tactical setup to beat the press, let Enzo drop, push Cucurella up, beat their press that way, worked phenomenally well. In-game changes, like Jamie touched on, which I didn't even notice, but switching Palmer and Gallagher, that was good. Now, you can say Mudryk didn't really work, but still, taking Enzo off, putting Gallagher in the middle, that worked. Bringing Broja on, that worked. Gusto and James, that worked. The only thing that I'm being critical of is how we defend set pieces. That's poor. And that's not obviously a Pochettino specific problem. It's a coaching staff and team problem. But, you know, I'm not rating the set piece coach, am I? So I'm rating Pochettino, so he will unfortunately suffer from that a little bit. And also, you just, no matter how, whatever the circumstances are, a wrong decision that it should have been a free kick, not a throw-in, you can't concede barely a minute into the second half. Like, that cannot happen. And you need to, it's directly after half time. So, you know, I need a bit more from that perspective. But otherwise, I think it was kind of near on purpose. It's not his fault that the refs gave a penalty that shouldn't be a penalty. So I'm going to say 9. Aaron, would you go along with a 9? Is that too high? Is that fair? I mean, JP said even 10. We should have won the game. But if I give him a 10 for every game that we should have won, he should have probably had a 10 for nearly every game this season. So I'm not sure if that's how it works. But yeah, I'm going to say 9. Aaron, what about you?
Yeah, no, I completely agree. When you're going into a game against Man City, clearly the underdogs. So everyone is when they play Man City. So going into the game as the underdogs, no one's really expecting anything of you, thinking that it's going to be a routine day at the office. You're not going to get any joy out of it, and then to come out of there with a 4-4 result, absolute blockbuster of a game, scoring 4 goals, and arguably should have scored even more. His tactical setup was pretty much spot on. Obviously, City are a force in themselves, so it's hard to sit here and blame Poch for 4 goals being conceded. Obviously, you said the penalty that shouldn't have been a penalty. The set piece, which isn't his instructions really, it's the set piece coaches, Gallagher being pushed over and not getting a free kick for it, and that leading to a goal. So there were a lot of factors that were kind of out of his hands. Again, a deflection as well for the 4th. So none of the goals you can really put him at fault for. What he did pretty much worked. Mudryk came on. He had that initial impact when he came on, got us that 3rd goal. Obviously, he didn't do anything after that, but he had the impact when he came on, which is the most important thing, and it led to a goal. So you can't really complain too much. So I'd go with a 9 as well.
Fair dues. Jamie, would you go along with that too, or would you go for something different for the manager?
Nah, 9's fair. Like, as you said, I think only question marks are set pieces. Also, like, pushing, I don't understand why we push so many players up for like unnecessary free kicks. And like, I know we want to get bodies in the box, but like sometimes, most of the time we leave like 2 men back, and that's why the kind of throw-in goal happened, because we had so many players in the box for that free kick. I don't know who's orchestrating this, but other than set pieces, he was really, really good. The subs were good. and I like the most that he's improved our pressing a lot more. We were quite weak at it opening games, but today was probably one of the best pressing performance, because normally when you press City, I've seen it before, like under Lampard, we just get cut open and it doesn't work at all. But today we picked the right moments
for example.
Exactly. Yeah. But we picked the right moments to do it and right moments to sit back. And I thought overall it was just, really good.
Fair enough. I couldn't agree more. So there we go. A full house for 9 out of 10 for Mr. Pochettino. But yeah, we'll finish it off here. Just one little stat for you guys, a double stat actually. Thiago Silva has today become the oldest ever goal scorer for Chelsea, and also the first 39-year-old to score in the Premier League since Ryan Giggs. So shout out you, Thiago Silva. Shout out Sterling, shout out Gallagher, shout out Palmer, and shout out Reece James as well. And a little shout out for Marco Cucurella too. You guys were brilliant today. And shame that we didn't win. But hey, in the grand scheme of things, a 4-4 against City, hey, I'm going to sleep well tonight and I'm going to be happy. And it's okay. I didn't expect us to win the league today. Arguably, whether we win or not, top 4 is kind of unrealistic by now anyway. So, hey, let's try to build on positives. Another good performance against another very, very good team. We just need to take one step at a time. It will come. Let's see what happens. I mean, we scored 8 goals in the last 4 games. So what attacking threat is Nkunku going to add? Are we going to score 12 in 2 games? I don't know. But, yeah. There you go. Oh, my apologies, Jamie. Sorry, this took a bit longer than expected. But yeah, of course, head off. No worries at all. Because we're running around it out now anyways. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you guys for watching. Thank you for tuning in. I appreciate you all very much. Subscribe if you haven't already. Hit that like button on your way out if you haven't done that either. Please check out both Jamie's YouTube channel. Link is down in the description, as well as his Twitter and Aaron's Twitter as well. All linked down in the description. Check them out. But yeah, thank you guys for watching. Up the Chelsea. Upwards and onwards. What a game it was. And we'll see you next time.